And Marsh here, talking about an important B2B sales topic that always comes up end of year, end of quarter, and end of month, and that's the sales comp plan. I'm recording this on Wednesday, December 20th, 2023. That means we've got somewhere between 2 to 5 work days left in the year. Now, in my experience, if you're in enterprise complex sales and actually selling to decision makers, that's probably more like 5. On the other hand, if you're content to try to sell to middle managers, then you're down to 2 or so. But it doesn't really matter in that case because they can't decide and they're checking out for their year-end time off. But let's dig into capital equipment sales. Is there a lot you can do in the last several days of the year to close a deal? Realistically, probably not. The close is based on the work you did during the last 6 to 12 months of the sales process. There are deals, though, that are said to be closed, but there's no written order, signed contract, or payment yet because there are final details to negotiate in the commercial terms. There's still time to get that done if you have tactics and a process to manage it efficiently. But here's the question. What's the motivation for doing that? Let's talk about capital equipment from the perspective of a machinery builder with a 6 to 12 month lead time and owners who aren't impatient like tech investors who frenetically track quarterly numbers. Maybe you figure it just doesn't matter where you get an order in December or January. But I'd argue that a lot can happen and change, whether it's global events or even things within a company. I mean, if, for instance, your prospect suffers a cyber attack over New Year's, that January order is probably pushed back to at least June. So when it's time to close, you need to close, whether you're under financial pressure or not. So how do comp plans impact that? Most capital equipment sales comp plans encourage sandbagging or pushing orders off to the next year. If someone's going to miss quota, they know that in most cases they're not going on a performance improvement plan. They're not on the bubble. They're just going to get told what to do better next time. Like the last 5 years they've missed quota. So why would they push a deal into this year? They'll get a head start on next year instead. But maybe you say, what about the commission? Well, an astounding number of companies cap commissions. So in fact, the rep might even be making a rational financial decision by pushing it off to the next year when they'll earn more on the deal. Industrial companies often work against themselves with their commission plans. So here's what I recommend. Number 1, uncapped commission. Progressive commission percentages based on the margin on the deal with a floor on what you pay. Let's encourage selling value and discourage discounting. Number 2, accelerators for quarter, semi-annual, and annual time periods. Encourage them to push deals faster to capture the accelerator. In other words, if you normally pay 3% of revenue, assuming a 20% margin, maybe if they hit the annual goal by mid-year, each additional sale earns an additional 2%, or 1% additional if they cross the line before the end of Q3. Assuming you pay a decent salary base, then, for number 3, I'd say maybe no commission until they hit 75% of their target. And number 4, finally, incentive results are important. Most machinery companies have huge concentration exposure to existing customers, so compensate your team as salespeople rather than account managers. Pay a differential on new business versus repeat. Set a goal of percentage of revenue and number of deals for new accounts and pay at a higher rate than existing business. Build accelerators in here too to push hard to bring in new business before the year end. Now, one final idea. Increasingly, sales depend on others to close deals. Maybe it's time to treat commissions a bit like tips in restaurants, where wait staff chip in a portion of tips for busboys, barbacks, and bartenders. The sales team could do the same for the sales engineers and marketing folks who increasingly impact deals. I mean, after all, we're in a world where buyers are 70% of the way through their buying journey before they want to talk to a sales rep. I'll never apologize for sales commission. Sales is a brutal job. Most people can't make it. It's critical to companies and should be handsomely rewarded. But more and more, it requires teamwork. So for those who contribute to success but can never bear the burden of carrying quota, maybe it's time to share a bit with them. Imagine how hard they might work for you going forward. So take this year-end to consider your commission plan. Think about recent discussions and your year-end numbers and consider whether your plans are hurting or helping your business and how results might be different if your reps were differently incentivized.